Hi, this is Max from Doesn't Matter Why, and we're here for an impromptu discussion about the Garden Street, is it Garden Street or Avenue?
Garden Street.
The Garden Street, where they've changed the street from two-way to one-way with cars, and that's the view coming from where we live, actually, up in Upper North Cambridge, and then it goes down to here. Now, normally,
Max, you can get whacked if you stay there
we
forever.
would always, that's what, you're my wingman.
The ambulance goes by.
Yeah.
And someone's trying to pull out of their parking. It's really dangerous.
You
Yes,
think?
yes.
You think?
So we have another resident that's also like up, because there's no planning for this whatsoever. They just did it one day.
Absolutely not. This guy
Yeah.
Muse is a jerk. He's
Yeah.
a complete jerk. And he actually said on one of the Zoom calls, "Oh, we don't care about the neighborhoods. We're just looking at the overall picture."
Right.
Great. This is the guy who's in charge.
Yes, this is what we're dealing with here.
Yeah. Well, are you coming to the meeting either Monday or
Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
the 29th
Tuesday?
at Graham and Parks
Yeah.
at the school.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tuesday evening.
And then there's a Zoom meeting also later on in December.
Oh, is that the second one, Zoom?
Right.
Well, I'm going to the meeting.
Good job.
Thank you. So we were arguing here. The bike was way up there, and Craig was, as you can see, was telling me to get out of the. I just wanted to get 2 seconds of video. He couldn't even just let me. I was going to get out in 2 seconds, but he just wanted to be difficult and combative.
I wanted you to be safe.
Because we're in combative mode. I guess that's what I'm saying here.
I wanted you to be
We've already
safe.
been fighting.
I wanted you to be safe, Max.
But I'm going to put the fighting aside and let Craig just start from the beginning. His approach, what he thinks about all this, because he thinks about this stuff deeply. And he's a bike rider. Again, I don't ride bikes. I'm from the car lobby.
Max is just upset that it's all about cars, but from a bicyclist perspective, and I bike this route all the time, this is horrible for a variety of reasons. The city has done one thing that's good. It got rid of the dooring danger from drivers, which is a pretty substantial danger. And in exchange, it created these hazards. Come with me a little bit, Max.
Oh, now we can step into the bike lane.
There's no bike coming. This is called a flex post, but there's nothing flexible about it. You hit that with your bicycle and you're going to go end over end. And as you can see, there's...
Well, even if your handlebar just grazes it, I would fall.
It's the exact height of a handlebar. It's absolutely absurd. And they're spaced so closely together that if for whatever reason you want to leave the bike lane to make a left-hand turn, to pass someone, to avoid the hazards like the pile of leaves up there or the ice or whatnot that tends to clog these things up, you've got to really worry about how you're going to make it happen, even if the cars aren't there. When the cars are there, you are stuck here. However clogged this little strip is with debris, with leaves, with ice, with snow, whatever, you are stuck here as a cyclist because you can't get into the road. And oftentimes the road will be a safer place to be. It's too narrow. It doesn't do anything, as you can see, about intersections. So when you've got people coming out of the driveway, they now have different sight lanes to make it onto the street, and that creates a different hazard for cyclists. So as a whole, cyclists wind up getting space. I call it spatial justice. They get space that they can call their own, and that for a lot of people is something that just feels good. It makes people feel like, oh, we belong. And there's no real thinking about, is this really safe? Are these bollards that didn't used to exist and are at handlebar height, are they safe? The answer is no. Will they stay that way forever? No, they get knocked over, and then you have the bollard part in the bike lane, and on the edge you've got this jagged 2-3 inch high obstacle that also will send you flying if you clip it on a bicycle. And the city won't maintain it. Maybe a month, 2, 3, 5, 8 months later, the city will come and fix the broken bollards, but it will take a long time. So overall, it's a step back, and if you look up where the leaves are, you can see that the bike lane gets really narrow there, because as a cyclist, you have no idea what's under the leaf pile. So I'm not going through the leaf pile. Could be bottles, could be broken bollards, could be whatever down there. So I'm pushed off to the left, and now instead of having something that's 4 or 5 feet wide, I've got something that's maybe 2 feet wide. And again, that handlebar height bollard on the left is a hazard that didn't used to exist. And now all of a sudden it's right there. And as a cyclist, I'm not used to obstacles on my left. We just don't have, most of the time, obstacles on either side. But if they do exist, it's the curb, it's the door, it's maybe a street sign or a tree or something on your right. To worry about something on your left catching you is just not what cyclists have to do. So it's not one of these ingrained skills that you develop as you bike. Over time, you develop ideas about how to deal with potholes and this and that. Someone puts up stuff like this that you've never had to deal with before, completely new hazard.
All right, can I do my argument now?
Yeah.
Well, do you have anything more to add? I feel you.
Well, I was just going to say, and we don't collect data about this.
Right.
So you could have 100 people a day run into these
Well, we agree
bollards.
about this. They did no studies about this whatsoever. There's no data to support any of this.
And we have no
Right.
method of collecting data
Right.
about collisions between bicyclists and the bollards, for example.
Well, that's what I asked you before. Like, how many bicyclists were injured on the street when it was two-way?
Well, we might have information about that. 'Cause
We
that
might. That's
involves-
what I said. We
that
might, but I don't
involves
see
motor
any of it.
That involves motor vehicles. I'm saying that if it's not a motor vehicle, you'll never get data, which is a crazy way to analyze safety.
Well, my reason I got upset when I'm coming up here. So again, as a car driver point of view, this is two-way. It was two-way. It was easy for me to get from Harvard Square up to where I want to go. Going on Concord now, it's just more traffic, more danger. So when we walked up here, within 5 seconds, there was a guy speeding down with the cars, which to me is like, you have a bike lane, nobody's in it, use the bike lane. And Craig is like, no, he can ride in the car lane, which I understand.
And he was making a left.
So he was making a left, but he has a whole green thing down there to make his left. Craig was like, well, it's hard to make a left. It's like, no, they took a part of the street they could use for parking. They took a whole parking spot. They made a little box for him to make his left. So he has no excuse as far as I'm concerned to be with the cars. And then the second thing is, like, right after him, there was a guy riding his bike. In the other end, I got some video of that I'll put here. He's coming up the wrong way. Again, this thing is totally free, and the guy is coming up the wrong way on the other bike lane. There he is. There's another one right there. No, he's going the right way.
He's going the right direction, Max.
Okay.
You are ranting now.
Okay, so I'm not going to stop my rant. So I think where Craig and I agree is that if you're going to make these bollards, if you're really going to separate the traffic here, right? Bike can go both directions, car can only go one. Everybody, in my opinion, should stick to their lane. If you're on a bike, unless you have a really compelling reason, you stay in the bike lane, no matter who you are.
Now, watch this guy have to thread. He's going to get really close to those bollards.
Right.
And you're not, as a cyclist, used to that.
All right, he's talking about a cyclist.
It's a left-hand hazard.
So basically, yeah, so if you can put the bollards, then, allow people to, allow the bikes to go in and out. But what happens, these bollards actually force accomplished bikers or whatever into the traffic with me, which makes me more nervous. And then if something happens, they can't quickly just swerve into the bike lane because these bollards. So, it's not really, to me, these I agree with Craig, these make it really unsafe. I don't understand them
These things, Max?
whatsoever. Yes. Yes, totally unsafe. They only make sense to me if they say what they physically say to any normal, rational person, which is bikes, you stay over here, and cars, you stay over there. Otherwise, if you're going to allow everybody to go wherever they want, and I mean the bicyclists, then just take them down and then bring back the two-way street. All right, so that's my finish on my rant. Would you like to add anything, Craig, or rebuttal?
No, I think you captured much of it. I would caveat that with the biking just isn't safe. So I wouldn't say that getting rid of the bollards automatically makes a safe street, because it was dangerous before, but it would make a safer street. This is more dangerous now, in my opinion, than it was before. And of course, the city's got no data, so it's all anecdotal, but I speak from decades and decades of biking and thousands of trips right where we're standing. This is a horrible plan.
Yeah, so to me, my feeling is if you keep the bollards, you got to keep everybody in there where they belong, period. So anybody's outside their thing, then then they have to go,
And we start talking about speed limits, Max,
Yeah,
because
speed
it's very
limits.
difficult
Yeah.
to pass someone in this very narrow
well,
space.
that's too bad. I mean, they take their time. People should take their time anyway. So yeah, either everybody stays their lane or just take them down, and well, whatever. Okay, thanks for watching. This is an impromptu Craig and Max doesn't matter and why discussion. All right, here's some other clips. Here's that left-hand box. I said before that the biker who's coming down the car thing could have went in the bike lane and gotten that box and made his left turn. And here's a bicyclist coming down the wrong side. I know it looks like he's going the right way. He's going the wrong way. You can see the arrow pointing up. He's coming down the wrong way. And again, on our side where he's supposed to be coming down, completely empty. There's nobody there. No reason for him to be.
All right, so you never know what's underneath the leaves, right? So turns out under these leaves is a grate. And this isn't an even grate, it blows up a little bit. So if
So you could slip easily in the ice if
well,
it's
not
icy.
only that, it's a bump.
Right.
It's not a flat surface.
Right.
It's a bump with bumps into
Right.
the bump. So as a cyclist, all this stuff that's covered up where you can't see the surface, you don't want to bike.
So they
that.
should have changed, at least at minimum, they should have changed that grate to something flat.
I would argue that would be a good thing to have done.
Right.
But also, you want to have special maintenance.
Right,
This has been this way for 2+ weeks.
right,
So the city does not care about maintaining these
Right.
things to make them
Right.
safer. So it creates, instead of something that's maybe 6 feet wide,
right.
you've got to drop down to 2.5 or so. And again, this, Max, is a left-hand hazard.
Right.
Cyclists are not used to left-hand hazards
Right,
at all. It's
Yes.
just not something you grow up doing. And who knows what's under here?
right.
As you can
Well, it's
see,
wet.
it
It's
got wet.
slippery.
so
So it's going
now
to be slippery.
slippery.
Yeah.
Slippery leaves will send you flying. Right, that's a much better grade.
So here's a flat grate. So it's not like they can't put a flat grate where they just put one before. And there's where the other one was. Shouldn't it, like, look, these leaves cover the whole bike lane. Isn't it the city's responsibility to remove them?
Of course.
I mean, would you want your child riding their bike through wet leaves like this?
My point is that the bike lane people said you got to put in these lanes.
Right.
The city put them in, but there's no real thinking about, well, how do we make this stuff safe? It's just
Right.
what the law was. It's just unfortunate.
There's one guy on the sidewalk. Oh, he went off the sidewalk. He knew I was coming. See, running a red light.
Carrying my stuff? No, I don't want
Since
that.
Since Craig found this thing for his
Yeah,
backyard,
under-
I've
under
decided
the-
not to argue with him quite
under
as
the
much.
leaves, under the leaves, by the way.
Since I don't want to get spiked by it, this thing. See, now what's interesting here, so this bike's going up here. This is dangerous for a bike. If I was a biker coming up here, coming up or down, I would be scared, especially rush hour.
This is a crappy stretcher road.
This is a very. So the problem, Craig, I have with this photo is one, it's two-way, and it's big enough that you can have a whole bike lane in one direction and in the other direction, and there are no leaves. So this is like they're showing the perfect case scenario, but this is not Garden Street because they made Garden Street one way.
Right. Well, it's also got the crash bollards there, which again, that left-hand hazard is something bicycles don't intuitively think about.
Right.
And over time, it's going to get choked and slick with ice and so forth. So they picked the best case scenario and made a pretty
Right.
picture because that's
Right.
a nice narrative to have.
Right. All right, so the top of this is Garden Street. So do you think that people, when they're coming up Garden Street, that's actually where they end up there? No. I bet you 99% of all bikers that are coming up Garden Street from that way come down here into northern Cambridge proper.
Yeah.
So this street is a really dangerous street. So what they really need to do for bike safety is remove all the parking over here and put in a two-way bike lane. If you really care about bike safety, that's what I would do. Now, of course, I don't want to see the parking go, but again, if that's really your focus here, is you want to make it safe for bicyclists, you need to do that because I come down the street all the time, is a very narrow street, even for cars. Just take bikes completely out of the equation. You see how you have this? So you know the left-hand turn here is the right-hand turn there is so sharp. So yeah, so I mean, if they really cared about bike safety, get rid of all this parking, put in a 2-lane bike thing, and then the bicyclists can be safe, and the people that own these cars, they just have to get bikes like everybody else. There, Max channeling the bike lobby.
Well, why not make this one way?
Yeah, we could do that too.
Do what they did on Garden.
Yeah, exactly. Why not make it one way?
And probably get rid of the parking.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
nice too.
Exactly.